Hey, what's up? It's Menta. And today we're going to have a little look at melody writing. A few people asked me several questions about how melodies are written, or just in general, how hard dance, UK hardcore melodies are written. We're going to go through it. So, this is my lead template, which you can grab the FLP from the description if you would like. I thought I'd use this as a base. We're going to get rid of these melodies. We're just going to use these same things. Probably keep the chords. I'm going to find a new lead sound. We're going to make a stack just so you can see kind of how easy the template is to use. And go from there and write a melody. So the way I usually like to write my melodies, if we get rid of everything in here, and G minor is my favorite. So we'll stick with the G minor bass line. We'll roll with that. We'll just write a new melody off of G minor. So to start with, what I would suggest we do is turn off all the processing on the leads and just take off the processing on the individual leads as well. Individual layering should be processed accordingly. Group bus processing kind of stays pretty relevant. There's a couple of resonance peaks which will depend on the sounds you pick yourself and also what type of melody you've written in what key, because the resonance tends to move. It's usually in this ballpark, but you might have to move it slightly left, slightly right, just to catch it. So that's the only thing I usually tend to touch. And then with the LALA, I just tweak the peak reduction, so we're hitting around about -3 on the peak reduction gain. Everything else stays exactly the same in pretty much all my songs. So we'll start with this. I'm going to swap out and go to Spire because I usually use Spire for my kind of stuff. And we'll take just a random pack somewhere, and we'll see if there's a lead in it that we can use. Let's go into here and see if we can find it. So we're going to be playing about with this dry, obviously. So have a little look. Turn the reverb and delay off. People have asked me a lot about how to do portamento and vibrato in leads, and we're going to cover that as well. It's obviously different in different synths, and I'll probably make a layer with Spire. I'll show you how to do it in Spire. Then we'll make a layer in Silent, and I'll show you how to do it in Silent. And probably leave it there. A few little couple of sound designing tips, I guess, are when I pick a preset I like the sound of. This one's not really hitting it for me, so we'll find one we like. This is a fairly simple one, but I quite like that as a character. You take it off a poly and you want to put it on mono 4, legato flow, if you want the slides to be able to be done. I usually drop the release envelope on the output sound quite a lot. And I usually bring down the X comp just because compressing the sound in the synth too much tends to cause a little bit of issue. This also has a pitch envelope and it's not being used at the moment. I might put it on. Not quite too much, but nothing crazy. Just a little bit of attack. So we use this, and then the glide you want logarithmic on, and then you want to put it up to. I mean, it kind of depends how much you want it to slide, right? 300 will so you demonstrate quickly. 300 is quite quick. If you put it up to say 600, you get a more exaggerated glide. So it's completely personal preference, but I usually go between about 300 and 400. And 400 tends to be my like sweet spot, unless you're doing like a really sweepy melody. In which case, fine. So we're gonna have a look at this. we'll use this character sound to start with, and we'll build up the stack as we go. We'll get a melody. I like to get a melody written and then build up the stack once. So I'll get a character layer. I'll write a melody for the character, and then I'll build out the stack afterwards. And we'll play the rolling bass as well, just because I like to have that sort of frame of reference. So we'll do this on the song, and we'll loop the rolling bass, and we'll come up with a melody. See if anything pops into my head, and I'll kind of explain how my melodies tend to be written. The big important thing, and I see a lot of new producers do this, is that they will try to do too much with a melody. You want to grab a motif and you want to stick to it, and you want to do some variations upon that motif. You start doing too many motifs, then you're going to start confusing your listener, especially when there's just a lot of chaos there. And that comes down to the second point, which is melodies are built off of rhythm and motifs. So you need to have a consistent rhythm and a fairly consistent motif. They're the essentials to a good melody. If you try to do too much, as I say, you're just going to confuse. Especially, in some ways, rhythm is more distracting than motif, because a listener gets into the rhythm of how the melody flows. If you then change that flow for a bar or two and go back, it really knocks it out, and it makes it really hard to follow. So we're going to go with something. I a lot of the time tend to like sitting on the third. We'll stick with the rolling bass sound as well. I'm going to completely just go with the new lead stack. So a lot of people like see me do the introduction pitch bend up, and it's a combination of doing it like this. Some people will do pitch bends down by just keeping legato on and then having this and then making it slightly like that. I actually do it a different way. I use the pitch bend in the synth and automate it in the playlist, but neither way is right or wrong. So let's try and make a melody. I'll shut up and just get something going and see if I can explain kind of along the way. It's very difficult sometimes, but we'll see how we do. But you'll see here I copy and paste to keep the rhythm the same, and then we'll change like one note. And then I tend to, on like the 5th bar or something, try and vary it a little bit more. Actually, might go up here. It's a combination of what's in my head, but also, as you can kind of see, I'm sticking to the rhythm and just varying the motif in parts. I'm not trying to make new motifs. I'm just sticking with what we've got and trying some things to just vary it a little bit more and evoke a little bit different emotion in certain sections. So here, I like the emotion of going up here, but I'm trying to resolve it slightly better. Or we might do something here. It's risky. This is where the portamento time will actually be better if I increase it. Might resolve it high. This is a different choice, but it's something that I've got in my head that I think will sound right. And then I will probably duplicate this melody and vary it a bit more in the back half, and that would be melodies. So then we would duplicate it and we would go again. Oops. I've got the playlist stopping. And I need to listen to this a few times to see where I can see where a variation picks out in my head. Okay, we can do this in the second half. Oh, I like the motif. If we drag a little bit else, not motif, but the slide or legato on that, if we make it so that we have a little gap, so we come back. Okay, not on everyone. It's not going to work on everyone. Okay, I don't like it there. It just worked in one place. Maybe I don't like it. I like it in theory, but I don't actually think it sits that nice. I always come to do the second half of the melody, and now I'm actually thinking, is it right in the first place? Or which half do I like better? Because we'll stick with that and then vary based on what we like. Oh. Oh, okay. I'm trying something different here, and I might get rid of that. Okay. I like that more. So now we go back here and we try and make it work in reverse. So for the variation, I need to recreate what I had here. And then down there, back to A. My note lengths are all over the place. Hold on. There we go. Kind of works. Okay, let me go one more time from the top, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with the variation, if it needs one. Or we'll move on, and if I think of one, we can come back. Because I always like to, with my melodies, vary something in this 2 bars here, and then basically resolve it in a different way to how the first half resolves. So that's what I'd like to do. I've just got to try and figure out how I want to do that. I actually do think that that might work, is what I had. Okay, I like the other bit. So maybe coming out of this bit. Yeah, we'll do a slightly different variation to what we had before. Maybe do this. This, maybe. We'll see. I actually like that resolution, which means I can't do it here. So, welcome to melody writing with Matt. Does it work? Hold on, it might just work. Not quite. I think that sounds better if it's like the only time it's used. That's the one. I just need to repeat the original one. Let's double check if this sounds good, and if it does, I'll explain the different components that make this sound good to my ears. Sounds good to me. Right. So the key points to take away are, in this case, I'm using A sharp, which is the third of G, but you kind of want to stick to whatever root note you pick. So whatever tends to be, to me, to have the most simple, repeatable melodies that get stuck in your head. You want to always come back to this note. So where it's highlighted in red, you can see there's bits that go up, like, you know, we're going ascending, then we're descending, then we're ascending, then we're descending. And that kind of pattern throws throughout. And then you've got the variation up here where we vary. That's the most deviation from the root that we go to. And then we go down again, then we go up again. You know, it's we're basically taking the root note in a rhythm and then we're accenting it with motif up and down. I'm never breaking the rhythm. As soon as you break this rhythm, you lose the complete flow of the melody. I can try and do it quickly. Where if you just change this rhythm to say this, if you listen to the first half of this melody now with that ending, you're gonna lose track of what you had, because you've had the repeatable rhythm for every 2 bars before it. Where did that go? Why did that happen? Right? It doesn't sound right. And it's because you've broken rhythm. Rhythm is extremely important in melodies. And it's, in my experience, often overlooked. So it's very, very, very worth it to keep that. If there's nothing else you learn today, rhythm is important. That's the one takeaway. It's like my biggest thing. So yeah, the basic components that make this up. There's the root, sticking on it, varying around it, consistent rhythm, and then it's resolving, right? At the end, wherever you go away from this root note, you want to make sure you come back. So you either finish on the root note or finish on a note that resolves to the root note. I'm not going to go too much into music theory here. You can pretty much do it by ear. You'll know if it sounds like it's coming back home or whether it's really far away. I mean, this might actually work because it's just going up a thing. But if I stay really far away, and you can see how this doesn't sound like it resolving back. It just sounds like you're traveling off into the distance, and then the melody starts again, and it doesn't sound like the melody was ending, if that makes any sense. So it's important to come home. And something I like to do here in the midway, as I said, is I like to break it off with a variation of what you've done at the start. Have a variant of it here. So in this case, it's just way more static than the first half was. But because you've come from a big deviation from the root, sticking on the root more just sounds like it works more here. So that in its essence is how I go about writing melodies. Hopefully there's some good takeaways from that. Before we go, I want to show you how I would transition this into chords. And people do this in different ways, especially in the scene. I know some people like to have chords that more closely follow what this melody is doing. I've always found more success in harmonizing the chords. So the rhythm of the chords is the same as the melody, but my chords harmonize off the bass line. So the chords are built off the bass line as opposed to this melody, and therefore harmonize with this melody. So I'll show you what that looks like. And then we can quickly fill out some more leads in the stack and get this sounding a little bit nicer. And then I'll show you how it is. So the bass notes, I believe, are G, D sharp, A sharp, F. Right. So what I'll do is I'll take the lead. We'll put it in the. Oh, actually, we'll do it on the chords. And we will take this so that everything is on the same line. So we're just left with the rhythm of the chords. And that needs to be on G. Right. Whoops. This is the same rhythm throughout, I think. Yeah, I never change it, so this should be fine to do. Move these down. I don't always have snap to scale on, but I currently have snap to scale on if you're wondering why it's only doing notes in scale at the minute. Right. So we would have 2 bars of that. Then we drop down to D sharp, A sharp, and F. And that is our chords root, right? That's what I'm building the chords from. So what I will do as well is drop those down so we get the bass notes for the chords. Something I always like to do is have my chords playing on the bass notes as well. Then something else I like to do with my chords MIDI is just drop off there, because this is a personal preference thing. It's a weird thing I do, but basically my preset has a little bit of a release on it, so I like to have a little gap in the MIDI so that the release envelope on the synth has time to play. It's just a choice. The chords are also processed, so this is going to sound really interesting after listening to the driest lead sound for so long. And then I tend to invert it, so we're looking at like pretty much having a fairly straightforward thing, but we want it to harmonize. So these are basic triads, nothing fancy. We'll listen. If the chords fit, then perfect. I've managed to do it first time, and that'll be very impressive. Otherwise, we'll have to figure out which chords we think sounds nice. But listen to what this sounds like. Let me turn the processing off on the chords. Okay, so already here I want to go up here, just because we've got something. And then here I actually think I might have a 4 chord, and we'll do this. And then sometimes I do this, and sometimes I don't. I'll have a 4 extra voicing on the chord. Sometimes I think it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in this case, I think it will, just because I want to go up. So these chords are going to have to be louder. Let me take out. So I want A to go up here. Ooh, I like that. I like that more. What I'll probably do with that is get... Now, something I like to do with chords is, depending on where the melody goes, I'll harmonize it into a different chord inversion in certain places. So in the back half, In this case, I think it works. And there's my chords. And if you chuck the processing on the chords just already, by the way, chords are sounding nice. Now we'll build up the lead. What we'll do, go to the pattern of the lead. We'll stick with it dry. I've started doing this recently. I like to set up my leads when they're dry. So we'll quickly EQ this one a little bit, just because it's got a little bit going on with it. I will use Pro Q. I want to take out the highs that you can't really hear. And then this has some resonance on it, which I just want to get rid of. I can probably fix this in the synth somewhere, actually. It's the shaper. It's like an artifact of the shaper. To be honest, it might be masks more when we add another layer, so we'll stick with it for now. Lead 2, what was lead 2? That might work. That's a generic kind of super saw lead. See if we can change the voicing on this. For the portamento on this, by the way, you want to hit mono legato mode, normal, and then in this case it was about 500, which there is not a direct translation from Spire to Silent, unfortunately. I think we're probably looking at around 40 milliseconds, roughly. It's not quite right. In this case, that actually sits about right, 66 milliseconds. I'm not sure 100% want that sound. So we're going to go with a different sound. I'm going to try, it was basic super saw like, turn off the delay reverb, put mono on, try and hit 66. It's quite wide. I'm wondering whether we can change this up. I actually don't like that sound at all. Perfect. So we do this and we stick this mono on oscillator 2 and 3. Maybe not completely mono. Have a little bit of width to it. Not that. I hate that that port is slightly out. But they complement each other nicely. And we'll go with this because it's a detuned layer. And detuned layers always work very nicely in a stack. Right, now we're going to go do a quick EQ on over these, and then we'll call it quits, I think. Got the processing on, see how it sounds, and that is melody writing. And finally this one. Sometimes I like to find the bites on these. And get a different character on it. And you can kind of make them sit a little bit better with each other. I just don't really need it. Well, let's see if we did it. If we put the processing on and see how it sounds. Then put it all together. I actually think this needs to be slightly less exaggerated. I also think the pitch envelope's actually messing up with these a little bit too much. So I'm gonna switch them off for now. Or just have the pitch on 1. There we go. So that is how I like to write melodies, and hopefully that clears up a few things for the people asking. Hey guys, post-edit Menta here. Right, so I was editing down the video, and the more I'm listening to this melody, the worse it gets, right? I don't think the flow's particularly good in it, and I don't really show any, there's no real emotion to it, in my opinion, apart from like a couple of places. And as I was editing, I heard one note with the rolling bass line, and it spurred off in my head an entire other melody, and I just had to come back and put down this other melody before I forgot it, because I genuinely think this one's in a different league to the one we did make before. So this is the new melody, and I'm going to show you it here, and then I'm going to compare it to the old one and tell you why I think this one's way better, if you can't already tell. So here it is. And that's this one. And you can hear it. You can hear it's way better. And this is unfortunately just one of the things with production, right? I could sit down and I could write a melody and I'd think, it's okay. It's passable as a melody. It's probably not one I'd ever use. And then you'll go away and then you'll catch something or hear a note or something will happen and you'll think, oh, actually, well, this is just how it works for me. All of a sudden something else pops in my head and I think that would be a better melody. And it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of just writing more and more and more melodies, basically. But it's recognizing that the one you made isn't actually the best, and it's why I said in the previous section about how it's very much a throwaway. I would never use it, I don't think, but I don't even particularly think that the flow in it is that good. It's followable, but I think there's too many notes. Which make it more difficult to follow as a listener. And if you put them side by side, you'll notice that. Let me bring up the other one and I'll show you side by side in the MIDI. Right, so if you take lead 2, for example, which is the other one here, and we play just these ones, this is the old melody. And in itself, there's nothing technically wrong with it. It's just not a very inspiring melody. And what I mean by the flow is the rhythm's fine, but there's too many of these notes, and you could probably fix it by changing up some stuff. If you compare it with this, you can hear it flows much better because you're keeping the rhythm the same, but you're just changing the motif in a variation where it's just only the motif. And that one gets me excited. I don't know about you, but that gets me going. It's much better, right? And a lot of it is just the fact that there's too many notes on here, right? And it follows a rhythm, but I think it's the rhythm that's not inspiring about this. I think you could probably just make this better. If I take out these and just go back to this left. We could probably just change up the rhythm here slightly and get a better melody out of it anyway. So just cutting out some of the notes, changing some of the note lengths, I think that flows so much better. And if we change it here to this one, take that out, and keep the rhythm the same, we probably just get a way better melody, I think. That works much more closely. Much vibrato there. And if we change that and then fix up the chords so the lengths match up quickly. So take that one out and double the length of, oops, double the length of these. That still got one? Yeah, it does. So just all we've done, and this really highlights how the rhythm's changed, right? Is we've basically just changed the note lengths, and that's basically it. But that one still has one. Again here, we're just taking out one note and then changing the lengths of these two. Completely changes the fundamental rhythm. Oops. And take that one out. That. That one probably needs to go. Sliding up. Again, this one. Yeah. Funny, I nearly cancelled this video. Well, not cancelled it, but I nearly completely redid it to just make a better melody. But I actually think this is probably more of a learning exercise to show you we all make mistakes. Basically, we're all human, and most of the melodies I write are not great. It takes a while for me to come up with something that I genuinely think is worth releasing, and this is kind of a sentiment to that. I think that's right. We'll find out in a minute when I play this. That's so much better than me already. So I'm glad I did this. Because it shows you one or two things. Realizing that your melody's not actually that good, and it often takes a little bit of going away and coming back and getting fresh ears and going, well, actually, let's be matter of fact here, that's not great. I still think that the melody I made after is better. Just I think it brings a lot more emotion to the table. But this one, after some changes to the flow, I think is in a much better place than it was. So hopefully this little extra section helps clear up some probably misconceptions that everything we write is a banger. It's not. This is proof of that. And being objective is very helpful sometimes. But there we go. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you later.